Right, yeah, so we've got the lathing pieces again. Not really used this one yet, just sort of threw it together and had a go at truing it up. And yeah, it was somewhere near but couldn't quite get it. So, what was happening was the headstock was pointing uphill. So of course if you put your cutting tool on centre at this end, it was then below centre here, or if you centred it at this end, it'd be then above centre there, so it was cutting tapers. So we've just whipped the gearbox off, and you can probably see how marked this is. There's marks all over the place on it, but I've just been over it with a stone and taken all the high spots off. So the way these mount on these, you've got your V on the ways there, that locates it, and then this side's flat to bear the load. And then of course 4 big bolts. I did get a little extreme with that bit, I did actually stick a grinder on that part, but this bit shouldn't be touching anything, and that end thread had pulled up and was capable of touching that. A little bit sniffly today, must be hay fever. But anyway, you probably can't see it very well anymore, but with the stone it took quite a lot off this end. On both of them it was sort of raised up, so hopefully that should make it somewhere near. Unfortunately that weighs a blooming ton. I haven't helped myself by leaving the chuck on it, but that bit of work is centred and true, so I wanted to leave it there. So yeah, I've just got to sort of slide the gearbox back. I'll just have a quick look at the underside of the gearbox and give it a clean as it goes over the gap in the bed, and we'll have a measure of the job, see if I've helped, hindered, or done absolutely nothing and just wasted time. Got a feeling it's the latter one. But yeah, anyway, right, I'll see about getting that slid back, and then we'll stick a gauge on it and see how far out we are. Onward. Rightio, we are starting to get somewhere. Not quite sure where there is. So bolted it back down after lapping it in. Yeah, it was slightly better, but still nowhere near. Of course got this bit of work in here and just running the dial gauge back and forth. So I've ended up shimming the back of the gearbox, and we're somewhere near now. This work has got a half thou taper on it over whatever that distance happens to be. I can't remember now. And we have half thou difference, so quarter of a thou out, because you know we're going off the radius, not the diameter for this bit. So it's quarter of a thou out from that end to that end now. So I'm not going to chase that any further. I'm going to move things around and have the dial gauge on this edge, and we'll measure across, because I might be trying to chase up and down when it's actually side to side we're out, because of course it's a round piece we're measuring off, so if it's pulling it slightly one way or the other, that'll give us a different reading. So yeah, I'll rejig everything and we'll have a quick measure from yeah, from the side as opposed to on the top, and just see how far away we are. Right, almost time to put the kettle back on as well. I think I'll do that. I'll put the kettle back on, then I'll move this lot around, and yeah, we'll have a look, see how far away we are. Okay, I think we're getting somewhere. So we've got the dial gauge on, and I'm just measuring the difference from there to there. I have actually got it slightly above centre. Hang on a sec, I don't know if we can. So yeah, the gauge is pointing slightly above centre, so if it is still pointing uphill, that figure should get higher the closer to this end it gets, and it's not doing. It should also get higher because that is ever so slightly bigger. Like I said, there's about half a thou difference from there to there, so it should go up a quarter of a thou, and it's staying the same. So as far as I can see, could be wrong, we'll find out, the front of the gearbox needs to go towards the wall a tiny bit. Now I could probably get that without shimming or grinding or flattening anything, just by the order I'm tightening the bolts up in. So yeah, we'll have a go at that. I'll crack everything off again, give it a bit of a nudge, and just tighten them up in a different order, and see if we can get it. So we are just tightening the gearbox back down in a slightly different order, and I'm hoping we can get it about 0, maybe just below. Can't remember where I started now, so we'll have to, once it's tight, just whip the thing off and have a quick look, sort of reset the gauge. Yeah, I think that's gone too low. Just give that a bit of a, it's not the best gauge in the world. I have got a better one stashed somewhere. Yeah, about there, seems to be quite consistent. So, like I said, this end's slightly bigger, so when we get to the other end, we do want it just below that point. So, well, let's just pull you back. It's going to wobble around like hell while I do that. And then we'll redo it a couple of times just to see if it's happy. And it's not. So there we go. This is a metric gauge, this one. So yeah, we're about half a thou still there. I'll flip it. Let's just keep resetting it and see which number comes up the most. Yeah. Like I said, I've got a better gauge somewhere. This one's a little bit old and battered and bruised, and you sort of get to know. Yeah, see, that's saying it's dead nut straight. I don't think this bit of work is though. Let me find my micrometer. I'll find my mic, because yeah, that is a good mic, and we'll just double check that. Okay, so forget everything I said about that having a taper on it. I've measured it with 2 different micrometers now, and it is dead nut straight, that bit of shaft. And then I had to think about the job while having another cup of tea, which I don't know if I've got any left. Where did I put the bugger? There it is. No, I've necked it, it's gone. And yes, I dialed in the tailstock with that, which of course the tailstock will now be out again because we've moved that. So, well, the tailstock itself hasn't moved, but we'll have to dial it back in at some point to see what I've done with the gearbox. So that is actually dead straight. So we want it to stay at 0. So, you know, it's nose down at 0 there. I did get my Posh gauge out. Lovely gauge, that one. Really well looked after, regularly calibrated. Well, it wasn't until I got it. Yeah, keep it in the house, out of the way. Unfortunately, because of its size, I can't get it to this end of the shaft because the blooming chuck's in the way. So we're going to have to stick with the battered old gauge instead. Anyway, right, so it's at 0. I shall wind it across and give it a quick one of them, and she's still at 0. Now I've done this 3 or 4 times now with that gauge, and yeah, it's 0, so that looks straight. So what I'll do now is I'll turn you guys off for a moment, I'll rejig this lot so we're measuring across the top again, and we'll see what we're getting there, and hopefully it'll also say 0. Right, onward. Rightio, so probably see there she's just below 0. Sort of depends what angle you look at the gauge at. Can't quite see it properly on the camera, not on this side of it anyway. And then if we turn the handle, provided I show you at the same angle, it should still show the same reading. So I think, get my old man glasses out of the way, I think we're about there. Yay. Flip back. Yeah. All the time I've wasted, it's none of it filmed of course, trying to true this up, thinking that the gearbox was out side to side. No, and all along it was out up and down. So yeah, ground the high spots and chuck the shim under the back. We'll get that cut off to the right length. So yeah, what I'll do now is I'll make sure these are all locked down properly. Got my bar still stuck out the top. And yeah, once I'm happy they're all locked down, I'll double check it, and then we'll see about popping it back together. Because you know, there's bits of lathe all over the place. I think half the stuff on this side of the bench is all off the back of the lathe. So yeah, right, onward again. Onward. Well, that'll have messed the surface finish up, picking that lot up, won't it? Not to worry. Right, I'll let that cool down for a moment and then I'll stick the micrometers on it and see if we're straight. Okay, so I've got rid of the rattling noise. Wasn't the motor or the gearbox or the clutch or anything like that. It was simply this cover, because it's not supported down at the bottom. It was just catching on the inside edge of that pulley, so I gave it a technical adjustment and now it's absolutely fine. But yes, I did do a couple of spring passes on this just because of how much stick out I've got for the diameter of the work, because you know, that's a long way out for the diameter. From what I understand, I could be completely wrong. At least with steel, I mean this is aluminium, but sort of more than 1.5 times the diameter in stick out you could ideally do with tail support. But all we'd learn by putting tail support on it is how far out the tailstock is. So, like I said, a couple of spring passes, and I've just been messing about measuring it because it's just about cold enough now. Well, it is. And yeah, we're nearly there. In fact, we're that nearly there, I'm not going to bother going any further for now. I'm going to take that rag off there before it catches the lead screw though. Over whatever distance that happens to be, about an index finger's worth, it's losing, the work's losing 1/4 of a thou. So yeah, we're closer than we were. So I think, yeah, it was just over 1/2 thou or something, so I can't remember. But anyway, yeah, we're losing 1/4 of a thou over that, which for most things will be okay. I mean, that's longer than what my valve guys are going to need to be. And look, yeah, I want to keep going, but I have been in here for blooming hours now. Check the time. Yeah, definitely blooming hours. So I think, at least for now, we're going to leave it at that. I might have another go in the future at making it a little bit better. Well, that's good enough for now. What I need to do now is tidy up some of the junk I've got kicking around here. Yeah, that's sort of, because I've not been using it, because it's not been cutting straight, I've just been dumping things on there. So I need to make some shelves at some point for putting cutting tools and bits on, and yeah, just make it a bit more usable. But anyway, right, if you're still here, thank you very much for watching, and yeah, hopefully catch you in the next one. Ta-da!